Okay, so this week we are in week 2. And tonight we're going to go over Xcode, why had you started, and Playground. So far we used Playground online. We're going to start, we'll use Playground tonight. In-class exercise is going to be using Xcode. Take-home homework is going to be using Playground, okay? The reason I did that is most of you have not played with Xcode yet, so you'll declare your very first app tonight or create your very first app using Xcode. So tasks for tonight or this week is create your very first iPhone app using Swift. We'll discuss in a second Xcode operators and expressions, flow and switch statements, programming using operators and expressions, and flow and switch statements. I'll come back to the notes in a second. Reading this week is chapters 5 through 8 on your download. There's a link to the in-class podcast we're doing. The in-class exercise, there is a little tutorial video I created. We'll go over in class to create the very first app, your very first app. When you replicate this at home or you do it later, you can download the source code. Each week, as we mentioned last week, we'll have source code, which is basically a complete project of what we did in class, or a complete project for what you have to have for your homework, which we'll look at next. Your take home this week, you'll need to watch the podcast. You're going to create a brand new Swift Playground app named My Variables. Place a comment at the top using your full name, course name, and date. You'll declare 2 integer variables. The first variable will have a value of 75, second 50. You'll use a comparison operator and test if the first variable is greater than the second and display value is greater, and use a print statement. You'll create a for loop using min value of 0, max value of 20, and increment by 1. Display the value for each loop using print. You'll compress the folder, the Swift Playground, into a folder, rename it, last name week 2, and upload it. This is a source file for that. When you click on that, it'll be a zip file that has the contents needed for that Swift file Playground. Discussion, and that completes week 2. So let's get back to the notes here in week 2. We'll go over that. So the notes link here will bring up this page here. Which if you click on that link, it'll prompt you to put your name in there, I believe, something like that. So we're going to look at Introduction to Swift Playground using Xcode. Go ahead, you click on Xcode first while we first started class. It takes a little bit to run. Also, we'll look at Xcode itself and variables and getting around Xcode, the screen here on this slideshow. Top free apps this week. Each week I try to show the top free and paid apps on the App Store. These are the top free apps. Starting with app number 1, meaning most download, to app number 10. So we have Tomb of Mask, Go Fish, Hello Stars, Instagram, Snapchat, Messenger, Facebook, Bumpster, Fortnite, and Google Maps Transit. If you currently have an iOS, it's cool I would recommend as a developer learning anyway to download these apps to see how they function, just to get some tips and tricks to help you when you create your own app down the road. If you don't like the app or you don't think you'd use it, you can delete it. So it's kind of good idea to look at what folks are doing development-wise. And then top paid apps, Minecraft, Heads Up. Both of those are, like, if you've never had the Heads Up app or played that one, it's a fun app to play. Plant Snap, Plague, Human Anatomy, and I'm guessing because school started, that's probably one big one because of that. A lot of schools, by the way, K through 12 in colleges require iPads, and so that's basically an interactive textbook for anatomy and anatomy class. And so a lot of medical schools, or even any school that teaches anatomy, which all do pretty much. Facetune, Bloom's TD6, Sky Guide, Dark Sky Weather, and Pocket City. Those are the top paid and free. New announcement. Each week I try to do an announcement. Apple's getting ready to release a new devices. They do about this time every year. So their rumors are it's going to include a 6.5. It's not rumor. It will be a 6.5 inch display for the iPhone, the largest it's ever had. It will also launch a 5.8 inch model, the same current size as X, and a more affordable 6.1 inch model. And 3 phones will sell probably by Christmas time, I'm guessing. By November, they'll be shipping. So news will probably come out here in a couple weeks, if not before. Xcode. And we'll just go over this first, and then we'll have you do it on Xcode on the second. So just kind of look at the slideshow and then relax and just kind of watch this first. So when you first fire up Xcode, this is what it could look like. Depending on, yours is going to be different because you don't have projects already in the queue. But on the left side, it'll tell you the version of Xcode. It'll have at the left there, getting started with Playground, which we're doing the first few weeks here. Getting a new Xcode project, creating that. And a new Xcode project, you can create a project, an app for an iPhone, iPad, a Mac, Apple Watch, or Apple TV. Any of those 5 ecosystems you can create them for. And then clone an existing project. You can start working on something from what's called a SCM repository. On the right side is projects you're currently working on, currently in the last month. It'll keep a list of all the projects here. These are actually projects on screen on a Mac that I work on. 2 apps, one called NIURBC, which is actually on the App Store right now. And then Aqua Guide is a local company. We created an app to convert a hardback book to an app, basically, to where they can tap on menus to go to a page. The difference in the book is they also have videos in the app where they can show and showcase product that they sell to customers. So next screen, this is when you're getting ready to select a project in Xcode. You'll notice on the left side are all the different types of projects you can create. iOS will be the iPhone, iPad. Majority will be camping in is that area there, the application, iOS. But there's also framework and library. Framework and library would be other libraries that other apps could use, the framework that other apps could use. WatchOS, creating apps for that. Framework and library, get on that. tvOS, that's the Apple TV. Application, framework, and library. And then OS X will be the MacBook, iMac family. Application, framework, library, and system plugin. And then other. We generally in this class are going to be doing, again, iOS application, single view application. Single view application is an application type that comes up with one form, and that's it. And then we can build whatever we want to from that. Starting on the left side there, master detail is basically an application type like Notes, a Notes app you might have used in your phone, regardless of what phone type you use. Where on the left side, you have a menu of notes you've created, which generally is a title or something. You tap on that note title, and it takes you to the full note, right? That's a master detail. Page-based would be like a magazine. You just flip through it, page-based. Flip through the pages of the app. Tabbed application, multiple tabs. There's a max of 5 tabs available in iOS for you to use. If you go beyond 5, it gives you an ellipsis, the user an ellipsis to go to the next 5. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you're creating apps. Game. Game app is a game app. And those are the top 5 that we'll be playing with. And there's other ones we get into. Those are the top 5 we'll be playing with. So Xcode is basically describing what I just said here earlier as far as the different tabs. And on the iPhone, the 5 limit is on the iPhone itself. If you go to landscape mode, you can get more than that on the iPad, but generally for development purposes, When you develop an app, you're developing it. Most times, Apple wants you to develop it for an iPhone and an iPad both to be used on. So you want to work on the lowest common denominator, which will be an iPhone screen. Now, so there are some games, by the way, that are fitting only for iPad apps only. They won't work on an iPhone, and that's fine. But Apple just wants to know why this isn't on both platforms. And that's part of the criteria of rejection for an app, is if you don't explain the reason why. If it's just because I don't want to do it, that's not a reason. Okay? And so anyway, we'll talk more about that this semester. So when you first start and create a single view app, is the one we'll be using most in this. Tonight we'll be doing Hello World, which you always do the first couple weeks in programming class. The organization name is generally going to be the name of the company, your name itself. We'll be using Rock Valley College. And then the organization identifier is kind of reverse domain generally. So like for us, it'd be edu.rockvalleycollege. And then notice the bundle identifier is that organization name dot whatever the product name is. In this case, it's Hello World. Language Swift, universal on devices. What that means is it's available for iPhone and iPad both. Back in the day when Xcode was first released, you had to literally create two separate entities for an iPhone and an iPad. Now you don't have to do that. Apple renders it according to the device. So that's a little nicer for us. Using core data, we will be doing that around week 9 or 10. Core data is used in a lot of apps that have any type of database. It's a SQL backend database, easy to implement and to use. You don't really have to have any database knowledge prior to using it. It's nice if you do, but you don't have to. It does all the work for us pretty much on the back end. And then including unit tests and UI tests, we will not be using this semester, but a lot of companies do when they're developing unit tests for testers to test their app, to where they complete certain unit tests to make sure things are working properly. So when you first open up Xcode, on the left side is all the files. In the middle is, and when you first open it, is the version, the bundle identifier we already went over, the version number, the build number, which is always going to be 1 and 1. Team is none initially. When you start developing and you want to share your app, you'll have to connect to the Rock Valley College team, which we'll show you how to do here in a few weeks when we get down that road. If you don't share it with the correct team, you can't share it with an individual to load. Now, Apple's changed their ways a little bit on this, meaning you technically could create an app, an Xcode app, give it to somebody that has an iPhone or iPad. They can load up Xcode, download it, pull your Xcode into their environment or your project into their environment, plug in their device, and it load on their iOS device without any team membership whatsoever. That's called side loading, which we will talk about this semester. And you can definitely do that. And Apple opened it up because the community wanted it to be that way. If I want to create an app and give it to my family to use, Apple lets you do that now. Now, one of the things you have to do when you do that is there's, I think it's a year expiration. So every year you'd have to recompile it. The developer, say if I developed for my family, I have to recompile it, give it back to them, and then they could reload it on their device. But they do allow it, which for years they did not allow that. It's a totally closed system, and you had to be a developer or a developer family team member to test any iOS device, an iOS app. You don't longer have to do that anymore. It's called sideloading. We'll talk more about that. Developer target, this one here talks about the version of OS. This one's 9.3, I think 9.4 maybe available now, higher. This was specifically here for the device iPhone. Main interface, you'll see the second what that is in a second. On the left side, you'll see main.storyboard. Portrait, landscape left, landscape right. It'll work any one of those orientations. If you only want an app to be portrait only, you would uncheck these two. And it'll be portrait only. If you want it to be landscape only, you keep these two checked. And there are some, again, apps that are landscape only apps. I've created quite a few of them where the real estate of the app just deems it to be landscape on the app. Down here at the bottom, app icons is where you can, again, have very limited knowledge on creating icons for apps. And I'll show you this semester a place I use a lot that's online that'll take, you basically just upload an image that you've created for your app logo. It'll convert it into all the different icons needed for the app icon. And then launch screen generally is going to be a screenshot of your app icon. It's going to be an image of your app icon. So here's a first app we'll create here in a second. This one's called Chuck's First App with a label in the middle of it. You'll notice on the upper middle of the page where it says Hello RVC and then iPhone 6s Plus. iPhone 6s Plus is a simulator, and the simulator basically is what's going to be used to play this app on a simulator. So you don't technically have to have a physical iPhone or iPad. You just basically have to run the simulator, and it takes a while to download the first time if you don't already have it on your machine. And then you can test that app in the simulator. Now, there are limitations to simulation, meaning you can't simulate certain things like taking a video, taking an image, recording audio. Those are things you have to do on a physical device. But everything else, even maps, you can simulate. You have to hard code in your coordinates, but at least you can simulate it. So also limitations on simulation. It's not going to be quite as fast as the real device. That's something to keep in mind as well. So we'll talk more about that as time goes on. Next is what the layout of the screen. And pay attention to this one because the top left is navigation or the navigator of your app, all the files in there. Middle is the actual environment of your settings, version, team. At the bottom is a debug screen where as a developer you can put in there certain hooks in your code to see output of what you want it to look like what we've done so far. The print statement can be used throughout your code just to see what a value is being printed out while your app's running or something. On the right is a whole bunch of utilities and different toggles. In fact, there's 6 of them. That the one that's on right now is the one most popular one you'll be camping on, which is properties of an object. An object like a text box or a picture, just to name a few, just name a couple examples. And you can name those objects. You can give it certain parameters, certain colors. And this one here, it's actually the object is the actual view itself that is being viewed here. And you'll notice it says it is the initial view controller, meaning you could have 10 view controllers in your app, and one of those view controllers has to be the initial one. And when the app runs, it goes to that view controller. And the view controller basically you can look at and think about as a form on a web page or multiple web pages, and one of them being the home page of that site. So you'll learn more about that. Xcode adding objects. When you add a view, you'll do in a second, you'll add a label for the hello world tonight. But the little circle on the bottom right corner of Xcode, you'll see in a second when we create our very first one together, has a circle, and that's the object library. In the object library is all the objects you can add to a view. And a view is, again, is like you can think of it as a canvas or a form, and it's drag and drop. Basically, you're dragging and dropping items from your object library right onto your form, which is your view controller, and then you can position it where you want it to go. So label, button, segment control, text field, list goes on and on. Web viewer, web browser, maps, images. So what is iOS development? Glad you asked. iOS in bold is how they came up with the acronym, the I in iPhone, because that was the very first device that Apple came out with. iPad didn't exist. And then OS stands for operating system. So iOS. the operating system of Apple's ecosystem, all mobile devices. Initially, yes, it was iPhone, but now it's morphed and grown and evolved to iPads as well, and a whole host of different sizes of both, and even watch. So we went over some of this already, but worth going over again. Some constants, if you want to declare a constant like Jane Doe, let name colon string equals Jane Doe in quotes. Now, just so you know, you could include semicolons in declarations lines, but you don't have to anymore. They're not forced. It used to be required. They are not anymore. Some developers still do, just because that's the way we've always done it since the beginning of Swift, but you don't have to. My recommendation is don't do it, because if you're a new developer, you don't have to do it anymore in the Swift code. A lot of your languages you might have taken, like C++, you had to have a semicolon at the end of JavaScript, semicolon. And it looks a lot like JavaScript more than any language probably, but you don't have to have that now, a line terminator. Let year int equals 2014, and you'll notice in between year and int is a colon. It's a caps I in int. If you put a lowercase I, it won't work. Just it'll error to that line. And by the way, most of your explicit variable types, in fact, all of them start with a caps letter, just to kind of keep that in mind. Next one's a bool, true or false, called isFast. And these are all constants, meaning when you declare a constant, below that line in your code, it stays static. If you try to redeclare it, like on name, if I try to go below the name line, name equals Chuck Conkle in quotes, wouldn't let me do it. In fact, it would error out and tell me this is a constant. If you want it to be a variable, change it to VAR, and it would literally have a link where I could click on it, and it would change let to var for me automatically in the code. So that's kind of nice. Again, that's a new feature of Swift, or Swift itself has had that since day one, where other languages, which the only other language we had was Objective-C, did not do that. So here's some strings. Again, these are all implicitly defined. Hello, world. And then the last one is taking that string and concatenating it together like this. And we learned, I believe, in week 1 how you could also do it with the slash with parentheses around it and quotes around the whole thing. That could work as well. Arrays. You'll be doing some arrays. We'll look at some arrays here in a second for the in class, so I'm going to skip that one. So when you're designing mobile apps, it's different than Windows or even kind of like web. I guess it'd be more towards a web base than Windows or Mac. People are only going to see one screen at a time. So because of that, you need to be aware of the paradigm and what people can see and can't see, and make sure you, basically what it is you're not going to take a website and make it look exactly like it on a mobile app, if that makes sense, because you're viewing one screen at a time. And unlike a website, most websites have menus where you can click on a menu item to go to an item. Apps, like we'll say Word, multiple menus at the top, and you can click those menus to do certain things. Now, there are apps you'll see in the iOS world for iPads that are made like that, for manufacturing, for medical. But for the most part, when you're creating an app, you need to also just make sure that people can only see so much text as well, because the text can be kind of small the more you put in there. So the desktop version of your application requires users to see several windows simultaneously. You need to decide if there's a different way that users can accomplish the same task in a single screen or sequence of screens. If not, you should focus your iPhone application on a single subtask of that computer application. And a prime example is Adobe. Adobe has tons of iOS apps that are supplementary to their native apps on the machine, meaning they have one for drawing, they have one for just tools. It's an app that just runs all the tools of your app, and you can be logged into Adobe Creative Suite on a Mac or PC. Use your mobile app to render the tools and to select tools, which is a nice feature because you're not having to use your screen real estate anymore. You're using a mobile device over here, right? Same with drawing. You can use a mobile device on Adobe apps to draw on Illustrator or be more exact on signatures, things like that. So a lot of mobile apps will be supplementary if they're in combination to a regular desktop app. Only one app is visible in the foreground at a time. Even though we can do multitasking in iOS now, you only see one app at a time, right, on your device. Many apps can run in the background and do a lot of functionality. So people, when they switch from one app to the other, used to the application would quit. No longer is that the case. It can run in the background. After iOS 4, the quitting application transition went to the background, which you got to be careful that your app isn't running in the background if it doesn't need to run in the background, because that sucks battery life, which users don't like, and they will get rid of your app if it takes a lot of battery power when not being used. So this is called multitasking, where you can basically run your app in the background and do, like an example, be a weather app. Yeah, you're wanting to keep constant idea of weather. Maps, when you're using it in the car, yeah, it needs to be constantly moving. But there's a lot of apps that do not need to run in the background, that do run in the background by default. And as a developer, you can determine that and cause your app to shut off when its foreground is, when it's out of focus, basically, and doesn't use any power really, or very little power. We'll talk about that this semester, how to do that. Mobile users don't have time to read through a lot of help. So if you have an app, you want to make sure it's intuitive and something that they can use immediately without reading a lot of stuff or watching videos or doing what's called coach marks, little dots on the app you tap on to figure out how it works. If you're like me, don't like them, skip right through and say, I'll figure it out myself. And then I'll go back to coach marks if I need it. I know I'm the only one that does that, but most people are like that, right? We just don't take the time, aren't patient enough to read stuff. So make sure and use your space wisely. It says here, a hallmark of design of iOS-based designs is ease of use. So it's crucial to make the app meet the user's expectations and make the use of the app immediately obvious. There's no questioning. I call it the big button logic. Make it to where it's right in their face what this app does. There's no question of what it does. If it's a recording video app, literally when the app runs, a big button in the middle says record. And it starts, you press record and you can start recording video. It shouldn't be complicated. I think a lot of times we make things more complicated than they need to be. Not to say you couldn't use it, but many users wouldn't use it just because it's overcomplicated on the functionality. So a few things you can achieve to meet these expectations of users is, one, use standard controls correctly. Users are familiar with standard controls in a built-in application, like buttons, text boxes, no brainer. They understand that. If it's a form and you have to fill out a form with their information, just put the text boxes in there and you'll learn how to do what's called a label. It's not a label, but it's basically taking that text box and putting a inference of what they should type in, whether it be email or first name, last name, SSN, stuff like that. Be sure the path through information you present is logical and easy for the user to predict. Like when the app first runs, they set up a user account, might be one, or a username, or color preference, or whatever type of preference just comes up first. That's pretty standard. Once they fill it out and they're done with it, it doesn't come up again unless they want to change something, right? They're done with it. And a lot of apps do that. An example would be, let's name some popular ones like Facebook or Twitter. When you first install the app and run it, as you put in your username and password, done, you're connected, you don't do it again. It remembers it. Now, there are apps that don't have that. Might be a game app. The game runs, level 1, start here. You hit start and you start playing. If you want to watch tutorials, it might have them for you. But most users aren't going to do it first. They're going to try to figure it out first without doing it. So you grade iPhone, iPad, web only, hybrid with iOS, and even now today, watch and tablet. So 3 styles of applications: productivity, utility, and immersive. Productivity would be like a calculator app, thermometer app, utility app. Productivity app be like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Keynote. Immersive app is like gaming, where you become a part of the app by your interaction. It could be movement, your movement. It could be finger taps. It could be voice. It could be video. It could be all of the above. A good example of immersive today would be augmented reality apps that are hugely popular in iOS. And iOS has augmented reality built into the operating system. Unlike Android, they have augmented reality. You can build it, augmented reality apps to Android. But when you look at the top developers today that are really pushing the envelope in augmented reality, they're only using iOS because they have built into the operating system, the ecosystem of iOS is augmented reality tools to use, meaning the camera and everything is designed to use augmented reality. So productivity app enables tasks that are based on organization and manipulation of detailed information. Notes app would be a good one. Here's a mail app is a good one. So everybody uses productivity apps. We use mail every day, right? Notes every day to be productive, calendar, stuff like that. They tend to have multiple views, usually displaying one level of hierarchy per view, where you can go into your mail app and tap on inbox and then drill down on each and then every email. Utility app performs a simple task. Example gives here is weather. That's a good example of a utility app. Another one would be like 3M has a leveler app where you go in and level, find the level of a frame on a picture, or you can beam a light and see if a room is level or not. So we all have these on our devices where you can tap on the lower right corner and put in different towns or different cities and find out what the weather is in those places. And then immersive is, again, a rich environment, generally people coming a part of this fun environment, usually involves fun environment. So gaming uses a lot, very rich, media-rich content like augmented reality. Alternatively, an application that replicates the experience of using bubble level gives this one an example of a level. Fits this as well. And so I don't know if you guys have used one of these. 3M was one. This was pretty cool. 3M has one where you can put it up against the wall and determine if a frame's level or anything's level, really. They even have now where you can point at a device. It'll tell you how long you are from that object to you and what the height is and depth, things like that. So when you choose an app type, think of what it's for first, and then you can begin to develop that type of app. So it could be like for something free and fun, something for sale. Check the app store to see if there's any other similar apps, study them. That's why I tell you the free and paid apps to look at is a good idea. After hearing about productivity, utility, immersive apps, think about the type of information your application would want to do and enable it. In theory, type of application you should create is obvious to you, and you probably already started thinking in your head, and you'll be doing that in a few weeks when you think of your final app. But in practice, it's not always simple. It sounds simple, but it's not. It takes time. So a good point when I call porting, which I've done a lot of over the years, where you're porting an app from some ecosystem to another ecosystem. So from Access to Windows, from Access to Mac. It's fine in that world because you have a bigger screen to deal with, and you can easily do that. But when you're porting, like say an Access database to an iOS app, a lot different creature than iOS to or Access to a Windows-based app, just because you don't have the room to play with. So make sure that when you are creating an app, that you discuss it, rethink it, structure it. An example here it gives is you want the app to report or just edit. Some apps are good at just reporting data from an app that you're porting from. 80-20 rule design. Basically 80% of your app, 20% of your app will do 80% of the work. Focus your iPhone app or iPad app on features that meet the needs of the greatest number of people. So 80% of your outcomes or 20% of your inputs, 20% of your code manages 80% of business and application, 20% of total productivity of a software developer produces 80% of results, 20% of bugs fixed makes 80% of software bug-free. That's the 80-20 rule. So you focus your apps on features that meet the needs, again, of the greatest number of people. So first thing we're going to do for the in class is we're going to look at the you go to the next screen in our week 2, pass the reading, pass the podcast. All right, here we go. So there is at the bottom of this thing called download source code. If you'll click on that download source code link right there that my mouse is on, it's going to download it to the desktop or to your downloads folder of your, actually going to redirect to my GitHub. And what you want to do is when it redirects to GitHub, there's 2 options here to download. You want to come over here to this clone or download button and click on it. And you're going to go download zip. And then you should see the zip show up on the bottom left of your device. And once I open mine up, I'll come around and help you. And you keep opening it up till you get to a folder, open up the folder, and you want to double click on the hello-rvc.xcode proj. And I'll do this again once I open mine up. You will get a prompt about, are you sure you want to open it from the internet? Okay, we do. And you get something about a target app. Ignore that one. All right, it might be quicker because the rendering on this might take a while. Let's do this. Back up. Let's do this. Everybody have Xcode running? Yes. Yep. Yeah, it's an older version. That one is. So let's do this. Go to the File menu in Xcode and close project. We'll just create this one from scratch, since that's an older one I kept in there. Yep. No, just don't worry about downloading. Just go ahead and close that out if you try to open it. Just go to Xcode, click on the Xcode object on your Mac, the Xcode file. Click on your Xcode right there. So you got to click on it. Click open. You're going to go to File. So if everybody goes to the File menu of Xcode, I'll do this along with you. We'll just do step by step on the overhead. I've got a little video we can use. I guess we might as well use that because I created it for that. So let's do that. I'm going to go back to my little video here. So first thing, you start the Xcode project and go to, we're going to go to File, New Project is what we're going to do first. In fact, let me just exit this out. You guys can watch that at home. It'd be quicker to do it this way. All right, so File, New, Project. And we're going to select the single view app. Looks just like that. And you'll notice all the other ones we can do, but that's what we're going to use as a single view app. And then you'll click Next. And here's where you'll type in for the product name. I want you to put in My Hello World, all one word, spelled like mine there on the overhead. My Hello World, Team You can put in there. What do you guys have populated in yours right now? Look over somebody's shoulder and see what it says. Anyone on the file menu? File new project. And go next. Yep. And then go ahead and put in my hello project. And don't worry about the team. Skip that for right now. You should already have in your guys' organization name, organization identifier. Correct? You already have that populated in your file knowledge. We'll leave it at that. That's fine. Got my hello world. That was great. I'm going to keep it there for a second. My hello world. Which one type in? Type in my hello world. Make sure it's that. Go to file menu. New project. Yeah, yeah. It takes a little bit for some minutes. Get everybody on the same page before we go on. Next. Put my hello world right there. Make sure to uncheck the unit test below where it says include unit test and include UI test. Uncheck both those boxes. Make sure the language says Swift, which it should. And then click next. We'll take a little bit. On the left side, double click on where it says desktop on the left side under favorites. The left side of that screen that pops up. Double click on it. If you don't do that, you won't be able to save it. Double click on desktop on the left side. Make sure you click next first. I see somebody waiting. Click next. Next, and then double click on desktop, and then just click create. I'll walk around, make sure you got that. Okay. Next, yeah. Double click on desktop. That's normal way to do it every time. Click create. Now the process is slow because it takes up all the processing power of your Mac. Once you click create, it should come up with a screen. Don't touch anything yet. It's going to be on the left side. We'll have your files. In the middle, like we looked up on the screen, we'll have the OS version, file version. I'll do mine so you can, yours should look like mine. And this process here, when you click create, does take a second. That's normal. It's going to lag a little bit. While it's lagging, just sit there and let it do its business. Okay, once mine comes up, I'll kind of help you navigate this screen a little bit to get around the interface of Xcode. And while you're working on Xcode, I recommend having very little bit running on your Mac. Because as you can imagine, like I already mentioned, it takes up almost all your processing power. Doesn't matter how much processing power you have, it'll take it all during the rendering process. And that's that way with most developing languages. The compiler piece will do that. So I recommend if you want to do other stuff like listen to music, as an example, use another device to do that, or play a game or search the web. You might use another device to do that, like a tablet or a phone or whatever, and just let this do its stuff. And I'm going to shut down a few of mine. I cleared all my preferences on mine. That's why it's taking a little bit longer. While mine's still loading, I want you to do something here. I want you to play around with this anyway. If you take your mouse and go to the left side here, and just to practice, you can move these lines on the left and on the right by just hovering over your mouse. It'll turn to a line with two arrows. That way you can make the most of your interface. The other thing I'll talk about while mine's loading here is on the upper right corner of your Xcode, there's 3 buttons or 3 utility buttons here that has like a right that shows or hide utilities, the very right one I'm hovering over. If I click on that one, it gets rid of that right one. The middle one, which should be hidden now on yours, if you click on it, it'll show at the bottom, the debug window. Click on that again, it'll go away. And on the left, so if I hide all 3 of these, I have more real estate, you'll see in a second, on my project.
Girona a la derecha, los jugadores del Real Madrid. El Girona que viene de empatar en este mismo escenario.
I must have clicked something here.
0-0 ante el Real Valladolid, mientras que el Real Madrid, tras perder la Supercopa, logró la victoria en el Santiago Bernabéu por 2-0. Se mantiene Keylor Navas en la portería del equipo blanco, partido que va a arrancar en breve. Terreno de juego en perfectísimas condiciones.
Okay, let's get rid of that. Watch the game later. All right. Okay, I'm going to close mine and reopen it so you guys just stay static on yours for right now. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so in the middle of your screen, you will have the display name, which yours should be My Hello World. Then you'll have edu.rockvalleycollege.hello world, version 1.0, build 1, signing, disregard that one for now. Deployment target, mine says 11.4, yours might say something different. Universal device, main, portrait landscape, landscape right, landscape left, going on down the app icons. So first thing you want to do is come over here to the left and click on the main.storyboard and just let it sit there. Click on it once and let it sit there. It's going to take a little bit to render, but what it's going to do here is going to take us to the main view of the app, which we're going to be adding a label to it, putting some information in there, and then running the app. I don't know, mine's simulators. I think I deleted all my simulators when I reset everything. I'll probably have to go to my Mac. That's okay. Okay. Okay, I'm going to switch my Macs here. My simulators are not downloaded, and that's going to take forever. Okay, what I'm going to do, to save time, I'm going to walk you through it verbally. How's that? You watch the video later. Okay. We'll make it work. All right, so what you're going to do, in the middle there, you'll see your view controller. The view controller is where you can, is your basically your canvas. Okay. Go to the bottom of your page, you'll actually see a plus and minus button, and it'll say 100% in the middle. Click the minus button and zoom out. We could add as many view controllers on this canvas. So if you view out and say, I don't know, go like 40%. So you can pretend that you have 50%. 50%. You can pretend you have 10 views, right? You can literally view all your pages from one view, and then from one global view, and then click on the ones you want to work on. You double tap on the title of that view, on the upper left corner of that view. Title bar, double tap on that for me. And then double tap in the middle of the view. Double tap with your mouse. It should bring it up into 100% by double tapping. If it doesn't bring it up at 100%, you have to double tap with your mouse in the middle of the view in the white space where there's nothing in there. There you go. I might show you where to tap. Double tap there. And you'll just double tap with your mouse. Don't click the gray button on the mouse, click just the mouse itself. Don't click the gray button, double click right there. There you go, it's 100%. And you'll want to do that when you're adding objects, okay? With that double tap, 100%, look to the right side of your screen, okay? You'll see on the right side of your screen, towards the bottom, a circle. Down towards the bottom right corner of Xcode. Tap on that circle, that's all the objects. Bottom right corner of Xcode, the little circle icon. Yep, circle icon, click on it. And what you can do is right above that circle, hover your mouse right above that circle a little bit to where your mouse turns to the arrows, then click and drag up a little bit where you see a little bit more of those objects, just a little bit. Cool. Good. Yep, just hold that. Now what you're going to do is scroll down till you find the label object. It's not going to be too far down. It should be towards the top there. There it is. Label object should be right above button. So keep scrolling until you find the label object. Use the little scroll bar on the right, keep going down until you see label. If you see button, you went too far. It's right above button. There it is, label, L-A-B-E-L. Click and drag the label into the middle of your view. Click and drag it, and then release it when you get to the middle of your view. Okay. Now click once on that label. Click once on that label. Now go to the right side of Xcode, and you'll want to go to these. There's 6 little icons on the right side. Looks like a piece of paper, and then a clock. You want to go to the one that looks like an arrow down. Okay, that's the one you want to go to. And you should say right now, text plain, label, default. The word label is where you're going to rename it. You're going to replace label with the words my, let's just put in there your first last name. Put in there your first and last name. Where it says label. I'll come around and help you. And then go ahead and hit enter. And it should show up. Then you'll click on that label and kind of click and hold the label on the view and drag it a little bit to the left or right to center it. You'll see the center cube. Click on the little arrow drop down. Little arrow drop down. Yep. Where it says label, put in there your first and last name. Where it says label, L-E-B-E-L. Place it with your first and last name. Now, if you click on that label and hold it and drag to the left or right and up and down, you'll actually see guides show up when it's exactly centered. You'll see a vertical guide and a horizontal guide when it's exactly centered. So do that. Hit enter on your keyboard. you go. Now first, go ahead and click back your label. Click and hold it. Now move to the left. Oh, make sure you're on the label, you're not on the left. Click and hold, move to the left. You'll see the little guide. It'll come down. Keep going. There, you're perfectly centered now. Good. Got it? Cool. All right, so I'll come around and help you here. Make sure your name's in the middle when I come around and it's centered. You don't see it show up? Put the down arrow. Down arrow icon. One looks like an arrow. Yeah. That's the yep. Replace label with your first name, last name. Just look in here. Looks like everybody's doing pretty good here. Now, is everybody's simulator set to iPhone 8 Plus? It should be to the right of My Hello World on the upper left corner of Xcode. It should say, believe, iPhone 8 Plus. We're going to keep it on that, by the way, because we don't have to download the simulator. Okay. Which does take about, internet speeds here, I'm guessing a couple hours. So we're not, okay. Going up. The internet speeds? Yeah, the Wi-Fi is pretty good, but the network speeds in here, not so good. You are right, though. The RPC Wi-Fi is pretty good. If we're not in the future, connect that. Well, yeah, well, this room is on a different switch. What we might do, remind me, we can actually connect the Wi-Fi. Okay, so everybody have it centered? Good. Now take your mouse and put it at the top bar again and click on it. There's a left button that says View Control. Looks yellowish. If you click on that yellowish button, that allows us to do certain things to that view control. One of the certain things we're going to do is we're going to render this app to run and recompile that label and say whether it's a portrait landscape or iPhone, iPad, whatever orientation. First, we have to click on the little yellow icon. Should have done that. Then go to the Edit menu on the actual view control, the little yellow icon. Yep. And you want to go to the very top of Xcode. Don't see a menu. You made the screen too full on your map. And I can show you how to get rid of that. You need to hover over the very top of Xcode and click on the upper left. Hover up higher. On the left side. There we go. See? You can expand. So you should see, once you click on that yellow icon, and maybe it says Editor at the very top. Editor. If you don't see that, let me know and I can help you to see it. Editor. Editor. E-D-I-T-O-R. Right there. Editor. Very, very top of your map. Editor. Okay. Click on Editor, then go down to Resolve Auto Layout Issues, and then Reset. Do it again. Editor, don't click on it yet. Resolve Auto Layout Issues, and click on Reset to Suggested Constraints. And what this has just done is it's, regardless of the orientation that this app runs on, it's going to morph that label to fit that constraint, that device. Okay? Whether it's a 4.6 iPhone to a new one coming out 6. Whatever it is, or it's the large 10.5-inch iPad Pro. Okay, well we're going to do it on the iPhone X, I believe. iPhone X, right? iPhone 8 Plus. I'm sorry. So now we're ready to run this app. What you want to do? Two ways. I like shortcuts. You guys like shortcuts? Keyboard shortcuts? Two ways to run it. You can do it with a command prompt or a keyboard prompt, or you can do it, I'll show you both, with the commands on the actual buttons. So if you go up to the product menu and run. Now, before you click run, Notice the little shortcut there. It's the Command R. Command R is a shortcut. So if you want to do a Command R, or you can click the Run button. Now we're going to do it. You do the Command R, it's going to take a little bit now. What it's going to do is compile your code, download the simulator if it needs to. Hopefully it's already downloaded. In a second, you'll see a little black icon show up on the bottom of your map, which is a simulator. It'll take a little bit. Once you see it show up on the bottom of your map, just let it sit there for a little bit, for like a minute or two. And then we'll click on it, and I'll have you do the next thing once we click on it. So it's going to take a little bit. You'll notice it'll say building my hello world, copying files. Then it will say build succeed. Then you'll see a little link start popping up, start bouncing. Okay? You click on that bouncing icon, which is the simulator. Go and click on it. It'll take a little bit, yeah. It'll take a little bit. All right, and so if you take and find that simulator now, if you click on that right here, no, just click right there. Right there, it's the black part. Yep. Click on the simulator again for me. Yep. It's going to take a little bit. Minimize your stuff on your Windows. Minimize it. Click the yellow icon, got a little yellow button, will minimize it. And minimize over here on your Expo environment. Yep. Click on your simulator again. Just click once. Yep. It will take a little bit to run. Okay. Once the simulator runs, you'll see like an iPhone or iPad, the little Apple logo will show up, and the little we're doing something here. A little progression bar, which means absolutely nothing. That developers we put in just to tell people, make people feel like something's happening, but it's not. Or it is happening, but it's not a true. Okay, just so you know. Basically, this is just a progress bar, which you might have heard of that in programming. Progress bars can be timed to exact time. This one's not. It's just a progress bar. It kind of goes real slowly, and you'll see when it's ready, it'll just whoop, all the way in. It's kind of like your download bar when you download something at home. This thing's going to download 2 seconds. Wow. 15 minutes later, it's still downloading, right? Same deal. So hurry up and wait, which is popular in programming. But the beauty of this is once you compile the first time, and we'll do this in a second, we'll run it. You'll see your little name show up. We'll go back into Xcode, change your name to some other name of your family, friend, or relative. Run again with Command R. It'll be much faster the second time. It'll be like that. It's already been back on. So if yours is already running, you can test that. Keep the simulator running, go back to Xcode, make the change on the label, recenter it. You know you need to. You'll need to go back and do the editor menu thing again, like we did earlier, and recompile it, and you should see it show up. Again, it's compiled and running, and it'll remember that. While this is working, again, don't play games. Don't. You know, a lot of times I tell students, new developers, now's a good time to take a break or tell a story. Anybody do any fun over the summer? Story time? Anybody do any fun going place over the summer? You want to know? Web 101. Get a class, right? Well, you go somewhere? You went to Dallas. Where'd you do Dallas? Where were the kids? What age? Cool. How long were you there for? Awesome. I love Dallas area. We went there one time for a mission trip and then came back and stayed in San Antonio. And then I think it was a river walk. I think it was what it was. Oh man, the river walk was awesome. Really beautiful. Tons of food. I remember when we went to the mission trip, right? Kids we took off. Now we're getting some great tacos. That's the first thing we're getting. Okay. So then we can talk about it. So come up to the little shack there making tacos. The kid comes back, I'll take 2 hard shells, I'll take a burrito supreme. Yeah. The guy goes, we don't have hard shells. He goes, what are you talking about? We have tacos? We don't make hard shell tacos. It's flour or corn. They have corn tacos. And go, how was it? They go, it's all right. I'll talk about better. I thought it was awesome. Oh, it was great. So, anybody else doing it? All right, so I'll tell you another story. Still rendering. Okay, anybody remember the Ferris wheel, Navy Pier, right? Anybody been on that before? The old Ferris, the original. Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but they dismantled it and got a new one in the last couple of years. I don't know exactly when. There was a big event where people got, the last time you could ride the Navy Pier Ferris wheel. Well, we went this summer to stomping grounds we used to go to when the kids were little. We took our grandkids to Branson, Missouri, Silver City. Guess what? They have that Ferris wheel on the strip of Branson. You got to take your grandkids on the new Ferris wheel off the Branson it is. And I've been on it before, maybe Peter. And so I thought that's kind of cool. Same exact one. You get on while it's moving. You get off when it's moving. It goes so slow, right? I think it's literally the same cost and everything. You go 2 iterations. The first one, as you come around, they go, do you want to go again? Well, normally I would say yes, but we have a 3-year-old grandson with us, a 2-year-old. And he was sticking his hands out the window. I thought, yeah, they can. And so that was our trip. We got to go. If you ever get a chance to go, the Branson is pretty cheap to go. But we went to downtown Branson, which has what's called a landing, which is has a Bass Pro Shop. I've heard of that. But Bass Pro Shop has a wild kingdom area and a fish aquarium that you can visit. It's really cool. And they also have ways you can rent pontoons, speedboats, all that fun stuff. So that's what we did. We spent about a week in Branson doing that. We didn't know if it was going to be such a great time because it was, again, a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old. No, 9-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 3-year-old. So we didn't know how we did it. We survived. So we did that trip. That was fun. Now, I do recommend Branson if you ever get a chance to go. About an 11-hour trip from here. How are we doing on time? Is it still loading? About 10 minutes, roughly, first time. That's okay. Well, let's talk about the what you're going to be doing for your take-home. Is basically simulator, not using your simulator, you're going to be using Playground. And Playground this week, you're going to be playing with iterations with loops, mainly, how that works. And it'll be your very first time. And by the way, the code you use this week can work on the code platform we used last week just fine. You don't have to use Xcode for that. But if you don't have a Mac at home, you can do it on the simulator we used last week. Just remember, you can include or take away the UI kit line and put UI kit. Everything else will fine. Cool. Okay, so some of yours are running now. So those of you who do have it compiled completely, go back to your Xcode, change the label, recompile it. Only those that had it run already for time. So if it's spinning with a little circle, it's almost there. You're almost there. If you're at the last leg and you have about half a centimeter or half an inch left or less, you're good. Within a minute time window, probably loading. What now? Okay. Back to your main. So sit there. And you can't click on the simulator if you want to. The splash screen is blind. Blind should have been. Once you go ahead and change, now you go back to your form. Change that label to something else. Put that name in there. Once you're done, you can recompile it. Command R. Yeah, Command R. Yep. It'll tell you when you recompile it, do you really want to do this? Do you want to continue? Do you want to say yes? What up? Did yours run? Okay. Click on the simulator. Oh, it's almost running. But let it do its stuff. It's not finished. Try to type in it right now. It's going to error out. So it's almost launching. You'll see a white screen in a second, and then you'll see after that your name will show up. Once your name shows up, that's when you can go back to Xcode, make the name change to something else, and then do a command on. Don't do it before. Try to change it before it compiles, it'll error out. Stuff. Good stuff. Cool. Yep. I'll kind of show you guys a trick if you're impatient like me. You can click the stop button and recompile. Sometimes that'll speed it up. Like this. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Command R. Click on the simulator, and then don't touch anything once you click on it. Yep. Build this up. Good. You're doing good. No, it's fine. It's fine, Chris. It's thinking. No, keep it. Yes, you see that. Oh, almost not done yet. Okay, you guys remember the little splash screen that was totally white? What I'm going to show you how to do now is change that splash screen to something else. On screws. So, right now, do this one. I know what it is. First, you log in with the username versus the CRM. We get in there quickly. Bypass that for you. Good. You want up? I'm going to do the splash screen. The splash screen. We'll do it. It'll just take about another minute. Okay. Let's see. There. All right, so everybody do this one. On the left side, click on launchscreen.storyboard. Launchscreen.storyboard. In here, I want you to put a label in there, in the launch screen, and I want you to put in the label, my first app, and see if you remember how to center it and all that good stuff, and recompile. On the left side of Xcode, that left side of Xcode, the folder, and it should say launchscreen.storyboard. So make sure you click on the very left side of Xcode, the little folder icon, and then you guys will click on launchscreen.storyboard. If you need help finding it, you know. Put in there. Got my first app. Recenter it. Do the editor thing too we did earlier, and recompile it, and that should now show up as a launch screen for a few seconds, like 3 milliseconds. Actually, 3 seconds, and then it should go to your default. Kind of sit back here and watch. Good. Let's see what they're looking. Great. So the editor resolve all the layout. Cool. Editor, all the way down where it says reset, and it's reset to suggested constraints. Okay. solve all of that issues, he said to suggest. You said Evan, okay. There we go. All right, then you do Command R. You should then see the splash screen, and once that's complete, you can go. What I'm going to have you do is this very same. In fact, let's just do this. Be easier for you. I don't really need you to submit it since I already saw everybody's results here. Inside of week 2 in class, I'm going to have you submit the word done right now before you leave, before we're done here. So I'll make sure I've got that in there. It's a file upload. I'm changing it to a text box entry, so give me a second. It's going to be text entry, and I just want you to submit in week 2 in class the word done so you can get your points. You don't need to upload it. That's how you do it. But I do recommend when you get home or this week watching that podcast again. It goes through step by step what we did in class. You can pause the video and it'll explain everything that's happening. Next thing, and by the way, when you wanted to save this, by the way, for later use, you would just basically, if you look on the overhead, if you can look on mine real quick, do you see this little folder that says My Hello World? You guys should see one on your Mac. You basically just compress that and send it to yourself, and then you can work on it later, okay? Down the road here in a bit, we'll be using GitHub to store all your files. But for right now, you could email us. For tonight, you don't need to do that, so you're good. Okay? All right. Let's go over the assignment for week 2. Assignment for week 2 is I want you to watch the podcast here. You'll basically create a Swift playground with comments of your own at the top. You'll declare a couple integers. You'll do a comparison operator to determine value is greater or not, and do a print statement. Once you're finished, you will, if you use Xcode and use Playground, you will download it, compile it, or it's already been downloaded. You just compress that folder or compress that file it creates and submit it. Now, let me show you on that real quick. If you look on the overhead, it'll create a file called like this. It'll look just like that. And you'll compress that like I've already done here. And that's what you'll upload. Now, if you want, like I said, if you don't want to use the Mac, if you don't have a Mac to use, you can use the simulator that we used last week to do the very same thing. The only thing is you're going to have to comment out the import statement. And so let me show you real quick what I mean by that. So week 1. Yeah. The assignment for week 1. The Replit. Replit, you can do the very same thing in Replit that you do in Xcode with Playground, except let me show you here. So I'm going to go. I'll literally do the one that you'll be doing. For your take home. I'll download that one to show you here. Hang on a second. Okay, so I'm going to download this file just to show you how easy it is to do it. This is actually completed, the completed one. Open it up and copy that over here to Swift, Replit. And I'll need to comment out this import statement for UIKit. Then when I run it, everything should come in right. So basically you're going to be doing what it has in the final, but you'll put in your own values and things like that. And so if you need help with the assignment, that's what this Swift file is for. All right. And you can use Replit. Now, if you use Replit, let me make sure I have the submission right in here. In Replit, you are able to download a file. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do to make it easier. I'm going to allow uploading of a compressed file, or I will also allow a website URL, which will be your Replit. Does that sound good? So you can do either one, Replit or native Swift Playground. Either one will work for this week when you're doing it. Does that make sense? So you don't have to come in here to do the playground if you don't want to. You can do it on Replit. Again, just make sure when you use Replit, you do not use the import UI kit. You got to comment that out. And then you can play around with the variables and such to make them work for you. Because you'll need to put in there your information. You'll need to put in there the catch information for the integers and stuff like that. Questions on the assignment? Okay. Replit or Swift Playground. Yep. And if you don't have a Mac, I would recommend probably Replit just so you can do it at home. Okay, and that's the assignment. And then you also have due by Sunday, besides that, the discussion. All right. So you've already done the in-class. Hopefully you submitted done before you leave tonight. Assignment in-class. Let's talk about next week real quick before we're done. Next week is week 3. And we already discussed the fact that it is campus is closed, both Monday and Tuesday. Monday's Labor Day, Tuesday's faculty development. So next we're going to be looking at, because of that, it's a great time for you to think of your final lap, to think of a final lap idea. So what you're going to do next week is, the task is to set up GitHub, sign up for GitHub. It's totally free. You'll do that, follow the directions and do that. There is a step in here on education, which will give you 5 private repos. I recommend doing that. It's not required for this class, but I do recommend you doing it because you get 5 private repos, meaning nobody can access those your code. If you don't do that, everybody can access everything you do. And for this class, I want everything to be public for what you turn in to me, but you might want to work on an app that's private that you don't want people to see your code. So I recommend doing the education account, which again is free, doesn't cost you anything. And read the information about GitHub, what it's all about, and everything next week. You'll also be doing, I'll have a podcast. I'll email you when that's done. I'll probably get done Sunday night. And then you'll have to tell me, okay, submit here once you're finished your username and email below that you use for GitHub, so I can add you to our GitHub team of developers. And then your final assignment idea is in week 12, starting week 12, you will begin working on your final app of your choice. And technically starting in week 5, you can start working on it in your assignment. You can either choose to do a canned assignment or add a component of what we're working on onto your final app. Now, it doesn't always work that way, but some weeks it would maybe. So ideas. I want you to think of an app you would like to create and submit the idea below. Create an awesome app. And I think I already told you this last week. Sky's the limit. Don't be worried about what you can do, can't do, what we're going to cover, not cover. I'll help you. I will be your app guru to help you with your project personally. Okay. And it works awesome this way. I've been doing it since 2013 for this class, and it works great. And last 4 weeks of class, you'll be working 100% on this app. Okay. I will be here each week. I will also be online available when I'm not here on Monday night to help you. But I'll help you create a schedule to help you kind of keep on task and milestones and stuff like that. And here's some benchmark milestones that we're going to kind of go over in the podcast I'll have Sunday to kind of help you kind of understand, okay, what are some things that are due, when they're due, type of thing. Some articles. If some of these links might not work, possibly. I checked them a couple weeks ago. They were, but if they are, just skip and go to the next one. Basically, it's just to give you ideas to create a great app. All right. So submit that, read that information, submit it, and then discussion. Why is it important to use GitHub? You're not going to know unless you've done a reading on GitHub for week 3. So again, next week, no face-to-face. You don't have to do your stuff during the time frame on Monday. Just anytime you want to do it, just before the due date is fine. Does that make sense? Let's see, and I believe that's it. Any questions? Okay, so but you've already submitted your in-class. You're going to do your take-home. Went over that. Oh, I did have one more thing to ask. We are going to be doing an app for a division on campus. And I know you're new developers. You're just learning, which is great. It's a great thing I'm getting ready to ask you. I need at least 2 willing subjects to help as an intern for this project. It's a pretty simple app. And every time, by the way, when you're a developer and you hear that, don't believe it. Okay? Don't believe that. I'll give you the picture you don't want to get. It's a pretty simple app to be done in about 5 minutes. No, just kidding. But it's an app for the speech department to help kids understand how to create a great speech. And it's on 4 pillars of topics, and there'll be 4 videos. I think it's going to be like a tab-based app for meeting with them, and they'll have an intro video on each tab. And so if you're interested in being part of that, let me know. Shoot me an email that you'd like to be part of it so I can get set up an initial meeting with you. It'll be outside of class. We'll probably meet at Meg's. I'll give the whole layout to you. We might even have one of the teachers come that's going to be helping you'll be meeting with. And so it'll be a great opportunity, but because at the end of the semester, that app will be published to the App Store, and your name will be on the app. So that's kind of cool. And so I'm not requiring for you to do this, but if you want to do it, I recommend it. And I need at least 2. I could probably take up to 4 developers. If we get 4 of you say, yeah, I'd like to do it, that's great. You can more than marry. All right, question on that? Time-wise, good. This will be on your own time. So when we have meetings, I told Amanda that we will probably do most of our meetings via video chat or just text chat type of thing. We're going to be using a tool called Basecamp that allows us to work remotely, to where you'll see your tasks, what you're working on. You'll meet with her like once a month over milestones. I'll be in that meeting just kind of to help everybody. But yeah, it'll all be done remotely. And we'll work out a schedule where everybody can meet. I know right now we're looking at like Wednesday evenings to do it, I think. Like Wednesday evening, like 6 o'clock seems to work for the folks so far that are involved. But we can change that. And so if you couldn't make a meeting, these meetings will be recorded, and then you can watch it later and continue working. What's great about using Basecamp is it's an online project management tool. You can go on at 3 in the morning and do your work and ask questions and reply to questions that I have for you or whatever I might have for you. And so, yeah, it'll be on your own time. Time investment, I would guess, the first month probably, which is the whole month of September, we'll just be formalizing the app itself and the layout. So I would guess on average 5 to 10 hours a week at most. At most, that's like most 10 hours. You want out? I couldn't hear what your question was. The deadline. Oh, the deadline we're going to shoot for Christmas to have it done, because she wants to start using it in the spring. So yeah, so if we get to where it's not going to be done then, that's great, but that's the rough deadline we're looking at. And I think with the scope of the app, we can do that. It's pretty, like I said, it's not a very difficult app. It's basically a multi-tab app. It'll have an intro video when the app opens on what the app's about. Students can tap on one of the 4 tabs. It's the 4 pillars of how to create a speech. In those tabs will be an intro video, and then underneath that intro video will be resources, like a TED video or a document that the instructors created, something like that. There's not going to be any sign-in for the students. It'll be open to anybody to use, and they can use it if they're an RV student or not. There will be a contact area on each page where they can click the contact button, and it'll go directly to a form where they can fill out. It'll go to all the instructors over there. That's basically the gist of the app. That's it. So again, nothing real difficult, I believe. But it'll be a good first project, I think, for you guys. And what I'm thinking is, let's say 4 of you decide to do it. I think what I'll do is I'll actually just say, okay, one page, one view controller per student is how I'll probably do it. You'll be in charge of this leg, you'll be in charge of this leg, this leg, this leg, and the content and everything, and then we'll put it all together and we'll have our app. Sound good? So if you are interested, again, shoot me an email, and Eagle would be awesome. And you can just put in the subject line, want to do the app, something like that. That's great. And if you have any questions, you can email me too. Yeah. Experience level? Totally intro. Totally, I will walk you through and hold everybody's hand on how to do it, what help you need with development, everything. Okay? Because what I'll do initially is, for whatever task you've been given, I will say, okay, here's what you're going to be doing. Here's how to do it. Do it. That's it. So every task I give you, it'll be like project-based learning. You'll learn that task and then implement it. And it's really a great way to learn development. Yeah. You want to know?
What about the knowledge level speech?
What about what? I'm sorry.
The knowledge level you need.
Oh, speech? Yeah, 0, 0. You're just putting content. They're giving us content, and we'll be putting the content in here. So basically, your job as a developer will be this placement of content in the right place. So, yeah, good question. And then right now, just so you know, they're gathering information of content right now because there's no content. So one of the things I've given them before, I said the whole month, the rest of August, the first 2 weeks of September, I'll get students, and that time you guys need to create content. So they're getting content right now. And so we'll probably work with MassCom, do the videos, I'm guessing. I told them to do that. We'll probably be working with graphic arts to do some of the graphics. Now, if you're into graphics, any of you, you can volunteer to do graphics, as well, like create the logo and stuff like that. So if you want to do that, that's awesome too. If we were thinking out of the box that we'd probably get graphics students to help, but if you want to do that and you already do that already, that's great. So again, shoot me an email that you are interested or you'd like to learn more or whatever, have a question, and I'll try to answer you. Because I'd like to have between now and the end of next Friday, have nailed down the 2 to 4 students that want to do this, and then start working on it. Sound good? All right, awesome. Well, we're done for the night. On your Xcode project, here's what I want you to do. You don't need to save it. You just exit out of Xcode. Do remember, though, on these Macs, that everything that's on the Macs, when they restart at night, is deep freezes on these computers. What that means is when these restart, every file is wiped out that you've written to the computer. It's a good problem, a bad problem. Good problem is everything's wiped out. You don't have to worry about data being on the computer the next day. Bad problem is if it's a file that you've been working on for 8 hours and you didn't save it and upload it to yourself, that's a bad problem, okay? Because that file's gone by tomorrow. Make sense? So make sure if you do want to save any files or move them, do it now before you leave. Otherwise, I will have everybody restart your Macs tonight, and we'll have you do this each week now because I don't want people accessing your content. And so make sure, restart your Mac on the upper left corner of your Mac. There's a Mac icon that I'm showing on the overhead. Click on that Mac icon and then just tap restart. Click on restart. And we are done. If you have any questions, come see me. And please make sure and remember next Monday, no face-to-face online. And email me if you're interested in interning with the speech app, which I think will be a good opportunity. And good job tonight.